The evening had always been gentle in the small village, but that night, the air felt strangely heavy, like something was shifting beneath the quiet surface. Diep stood at the doorway of her little house, the last traces of sunlight coloring her eyes with gold. In her hands, she held the phone James had given her, still warm from their final call before he boarded the plane. "Just 2 days," he had said, voice soft, steady, warm. "Take care of yourself and little Nhi. I'll be back before you know it." But 2 days could feel like forever when danger was near. Inside, Nhi sat cross-legged on the floor, humming the little song she always sang whenever she felt safe. "Mom, I love you. I want to hold you tight and laugh out loud." Her young voice rose and fell like sunlight itself, pure, bright, innocent. Diep smiled, but the smile didn't reach her heart. Because earlier that afternoon, a man had come. He had walked into her yard with the calmness of someone who believed the world belonged to him. He had introduced himself as an old acquaintance of James. His clothes were clean, his voice polite, but his eyes, cold, distant, too sharp. And then he had spoken the words Diep wished she had never heard. "Father James," he had said quietly, "has paid men to hurt you, to scare you away from his son." It felt as if someone had pressed a blade to her chest. Diep had tried to stay calm, tried to defend the man she believed would never cross the line of morality. She had told the stranger that she trusted James and trusted his father's integrity. But the man only smiled, the kind of smile that held pity more than malice. "You're smart," he said. "Deep down, you know this world doesn't run on love. It runs on money. And James' father would burn down mountains to protect the future he wants for his son." When he finally left, Diep's hands trembled for minutes afterwards. She wanted to believe it was all a lie, a cruel trick meant to break her, but the certainty in his voice clung to her like shadows. Now James was thousands of miles away. The fields outside whispered under the night wind. Inside the house, Nhi curled against her side, trusting, warm, unaware of any danger at all. Diep looked toward the darkened road, her breath tightening. "James," she whispered, "when you are gone, who will protect us from your father's wrath?"
The next morning arrived quietly, as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace inside Diep's home. Soft rays of sunlight stretched across the wooden floor, landing on little Nhi, who was still sleeping with her drawing book clutched to her chest. On its open page, 3 figures stood hand in hand, Diep, James, and the little girl in the middle. It should have been a comforting sight, but Diep's heart stayed tight with unease. She rose early, prepared breakfast for Nhi, and tried to drown herself in work, sorting fruit, checking her small accounts, planning what to deliver to the town market, anything to distract her mind from the man's warning. But danger never waits politely. It arrived at noon. Diep was washing a basket of oranges when she heard footsteps outside, not James's steady, familiar steps, but heavier, colder. Her hairs on her arms rose instantly. She stepped out into the yard, shielding her eyes from the sun. 3 men stood at the gate. They looked like laborers, but their expressions were too still, too controlled. One of them held a cigarette between his fingers, letting the smoke curl upward like a silent threat. "Are you too, Diep?" the tallest man asked. Diep's hands tightened around the rim of her basket. "Yes. Can I help you?" "We're just here to deliver a message," he said, voice casual but cutting, "from someone who thinks you should reconsider your place next to James." Her stomach dropped. "So it's true," she whispered. "His father?" The man smirked. "Smart girl. He doesn't want you hurt, not really, but accidents happen. Markets get dangerous, roads get slippery. Little girls wander. Behind Diep, Nhi's voice rang softly from inside the house. "Ko Diep, where are you?" Diep stepped forward instantly, blocking the men's view. "Leave," she said firmly, even though her legs shook. "I won't listen to threats, and I won't leave James." The men exchanged glances, amused, entertained. "We'll be back," the tallest one said. "Don't make this harder." They turned and walked away. Only when their figures disappeared beyond the bamboo trees did Diep realize her breath was shaking uncontrollably. She pressed her hand to her chest, forcing herself to calm down. "James, where are you? You promised to protect me." But now, with every hour he was gone, the shadows around her seemed to grow sharper. She lifted me into her arms, holding her close, as if she could shield the child from the entire world. "Don't be scared, Nhi. I'm here. I'll protect you." But inside, she felt utterly alone.
Night fell earlier than usual, as if the sky, too, sensed danger lingering around Diep's small home. The wind pressed against the windows, carrying the scent of rain. Diep sat at the edge of the bed, brushing Nhi's hair gently as the child drifted to sleep. Every now and then, Nhi murmured in her dreams, a soft, innocent sound that only deepened the fear twisting inside Diep's chest. When Nhi finally slept, Diep stepped outside. The yard was silent, too silent. She pulled her shawl tighter. The same 3 men from earlier had left marks on her mind, marks deeper than footsteps on dirt. Their smirking faces replayed in her thoughts again and again. She scanned the dark, half expecting them to emerge from behind the mango trees. Then her phone buzzed. Her heart leaped. "James?" But it wasn't him. It was an unknown number. Diep hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A calm, older voice filled the line. "To Diep?" She froze. "Father James?" There was no kindness in his tone, only arrogance wrapped in ice. "I warned James that associating with a girl like you would ruin him. But he is stubborn. And now, because he refuses to listen, you and that child will pay the price." Her hands trembled around the phone. "I have done nothing to you. Why are you doing this?" "You exist, and that is enough." Diep swallowed hard. "James doesn't know about this. He believes you would never break the law." A short, cold laugh echoed. "Then he is more naive than I thought." She felt the truth stab her. Father James, the respectable businessman, the educated man James always admired. He was behind everything. "Please," she said, her voice cracking, "leave me out of this. She's just a child." "That is entirely up to you," he said quietly. "End things with my son, disappear, and no one gets hurt." Before she could respond, the call ended. Diep stood frozen, staring into the shadows. Her breath misted in the cold night air. She felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to run, take Nhi, flee to anywhere far away from this storm. But then she looked at the small window, glowing with warm light inside the house. Nhi was in there, her little family, James's family. And she remembered the promise she made to James before he left. "I'll stay strong. I'll wait for you." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I won't leave him," she whispered to the wind.
no matter how many storms you send." But even as she spoke, she knew the real storm was only beginning.
The morning sun filtered weakly through the curtains, painting the small room in muted gold. Diep moved quietly, careful not to wake Nhi, who was curled up like a tiny bird under the blankets. Her thoughts raced, tangled with fear and determination. Father James's threat from last night still echoed in her mind, sharp and cold. She knew she couldn't wait for James to come back. With him abroad, there was no one to shield them from his father's wrath. Every decision she made now could mean the difference between safety and disaster for Nhi. Diep squared her shoulders and forced herself to breathe steadily. Panic would not help. She needed a plan. The sound of the gate creaking made her heart leap. Instinctively, she peeked through the window. A figure moved in the yard, tall and purposeful. Relief washed over her for a fleeting second. It was just the neighbor, coming to check on her. Yet the fear never fully left her chest. Who knew when Father James's men might appear again? Diep prepared breakfast, talking to Nhi with a forced cheerfulness she didn't feel. "Eat up, Nhi. Today we have to be strong, okay?" Nhi's sleepy eyes looked up at her, full of trust and innocence. "Go, Diep. When is Chu James coming back?" Diep swallowed, forcing a smile. "Soon, my little one. He's taking care of important things, but he'll be back, I promise." After breakfast, she gathered her courage and went to check on the phones, the doors, the windows, anything that could give her an edge if danger came. Every small action felt heavy with responsibility, every creak of the house sounding like a warning. The world outside seemed normal, yet in her heart she knew the calm was fragile. Then a shadow fell over the doorway. Diep's breath caught. A man stood there, sharply dressed, but his eyes held no warmth. He wasn't smiling. "To Diep, Father James sent me to check on things. Nothing serious, unless you make it serious." Diep's pulse raced. She clenched her fists. "You won't lay a finger on us," she said firmly. The man's smile was slight, almost amused. "Oh, my dear, you don't get to decide. But don't worry, we can do this quietly. No fuss. Just like Father James likes it." Diep's mind raced. She needed to protect me. She needed to buy time. Every second counted. "I understand," she said softly, buying time. "But first, let me get my things. We have preparations to make." The man hesitated, and that small pause was everything Diep needed. She grabbed her phone, sending a silent message to James. "Danger! We need you!" Her hands trembled, but her resolve hardened. She would protect me, and she would survive this storm until James returned. Outside, the wind picked up again, rustling the trees, whispering warnings. Diep stood taller, her heart pounding. The battle for their safety had begun, and she would not back down. The value of patience and perseverance. Life is a journey filled with challenges, obstacles, and unexpected turns. Often we encounter situations that test our patience and push us to the limits of our endurance. In such moments, it is easy to feel frustrated or defeated. However, the lessons we learn from these experiences shape our character and prepare us for future success. Among the most important virtues we can cultivate are patience and perseverance. Patience is the ability to remain calm and composed even when faced with difficulties. It allows us to think clearly, make better decisions, and avoid rash actions that could create more problems. For example, when learning a new skill or trying to achieve a goal, progress may seem slow or uncertain. Those who practice patience understand that growth takes time and effort, and they focus on steady improvement rather than immediate results. Patience teaches us that some things cannot be rushed,
and that persistence often brings rewards that instant gratification cannot provide. Perseverance, on the other hand, is the determination to keep moving forward despite setbacks. Life rarely follows a straight path, and failures are inevitable. Yet it is through perseverance that we overcome difficulties and achieve our aspirations. Many successful individuals share stories of repeated failures before finally reaching their goals. Their experiences demonstrate that giving up too soon prevents us from realizing our true potential. Perseverance encourages resilience, self-discipline, and a sense of responsibility toward our dreams. When patience and perseverance work together, they create a powerful combination. Patience helps us endure difficult times without losing hope, while perseverance drives us to continue striving for our goals. Together, these virtues enable us to navigate life's challenges with wisdom, courage, and confidence. They remind us that success is rarely instant, but with persistence and calm determination, even the most daunting obstacles can be overcome. In conclusion, patience and perseverance are not merely traits, but essential life skills. They help us face difficulties, grow stronger through challenges, and achieve long-term success. By embracing these virtues, we learn that setbacks are temporary, effort brings progress, and our dreams are worth the wait. Life rewards those who are patient enough to endure and persistent enough to pursue their goals without giving up.